The 1950s was a great time of change in America. Many people sought after new dreams of a better life. One man planned to influence those dreams with a little bit of his imagination. Disneyland has been called the happiest place on earth, and it's been feeding the imaginations of adults and children for over 5 decades. As a child, I had an enormous imagination, and Disneyland was one of my favorite places. As an adult, I try to make it there as often as possible because I just can't get enough. I'm going to take you through the processes that led Walt Disney to create his park, the opening day disasters, and the technologies that make our modern day Disneyland. Walt Disney was a dreamer, but his dream didn't begin with Disneyland. It began with the Disney Brothers Studio. In October of 1923, Walt opened the Disney Brothers Studio with his brother Roy. The studio was later renamed the Walt Disney Corporation. But his idea of Disneyland came from sitting at the park with his daughters year after year every Sunday. Sitting on the bench watching them play, Walt came up with the idea of a park that children and adults could enjoy together. Walt once said this about his idea of a park: "What this country really needs is an amusement park that families can take their children to. They've gotten so honky-tonk with a lot of questionable characters running around, and they're not safe. They're not well kept, and I want to have a place that's as clean as anything could ever be, and all the people in it are first-class citizens and treated like guests." So Walt began to search for land to build his dream on. Disneyland was originally to be built on a small 8-acre lot next to the studio in Burbank, California. But that space was quickly realized to be too small, so Walt began to search for other land. But funding grew short, and Walt had nowhere to turn, so he created the show Disneyland. This show brought the idea of Disneyland and all of Walt's dreams into Americans' homes and let them be a part of it. So, with the generous donations of the public, Walt was able to purchase a 160-acre orange grove in Anaheim, California, and construction began on July 18, 1954. This was just 365 days before the projected opening date of Disneyland. As Walt watched his dream be built, he could see the joy it would bring families for many years to come. Disneyland opening day was July 17, 1955. It was an exciting day for many people, but it came with its fair share of problems. Opening day was intended to be an invitation-only event. Walt selected 6,000 of his closest friends, family members, co-workers, press, and Hollywood stars to invite. He sent tickets out to these 6,000 people, but by mid-afternoon, over 28,000 people had came through the park gates. This was due to counterfeit tickets being made by a man in Santa Barbara, California. The park was overcrowded when afternoon came. The temperature was over 100 degrees and there were no working water fountains in the park. This was due to a plumber strike in Anaheim. Walt had to either choose from toilets or working water fountains, and he chose the toilets. The park was so crowded that many parents were lifting their children over their shoulders and over gates and fences to get them on rides. Many details were overlooked in preparing the park as well. As Walt walked around and did his last-minute stroll, he noticed that there were many plants and many trees missing from where they were to be planted. So in a last-minute effort to distract the guest, he had new name tags printed for some of his cast members. These name tags bore names of foreign exotic countries to suggest intelligence to the guest to distract him from the missing places. Food preparation were made little also. Due to the unpredicted overcrowded park, food and beverage ran out by mid-afternoon. And the asphalt was laid just the night before opening, so the next day, many high-heel shoes of the women sank into the asphalt. Although opening day was called Black Sunday by the press and Walt, 7 weeks later, over 1 million people had entered the gates of Disneyland. Many changes have come to our modern-day Disneyland. It's made it what it is today. Walt Disney World was built in 1971 in Lake Buena Vista, Florida. This was just 50 miles from where Walt's parents were married. The Disney Corporation also holds many parks all around the world, in Hong Kong, in Paris, in Tokyo, and one to be built in Shanghai. In the 90s, Disneyland turned from a park into a resort. They built California Adventures, 3 new hotels, an enormous parking structure that holds 10,250 cars. And Disney also built Downtown Disney just outside of the gates. This is a place where guests can go to shop and eat and enjoy the House of Blues jazz restaurant. But the biggest change to Disney is how far their technologies have came. When Disneyland first opened, any figures on their rides were stationary. They did not talk, they didn't have any facial expressions, and they had no movement. Disney Imagineers were the first to trademark the audio animatronic robot. This robot can show facial expressions, it can move, and it has pre-recorded voices. The first use of these were on the Enchanted Tiki Room at Disneyland, where birds would talk and sing for guests and move. Disney also boasts large, elaborate, beautiful firework displays that are cued to music. One of the newest displays of technology at Disney is a water feature called The World of Color. The World of Color shows projected clips from Disney movies on large fountains of water as they change shape and they change colors. These technologies were not available to Walt when he first opened Disneyland, and he would be proud with how far it's came. But sadly, Walt Disney died on December 15, 1966 of lung cancer. This was just 11 short years after his dream was realized. When Walt Disney first opened his park, he said, "To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land." Walt Disney truly gave a land to many adults and children that gave them a dream of their own to believe in.